and we will start out as we always do. Whenever you're working with anybody, whether you're discipling them, talking with them, whether you're and they're struggling with anything, or just a great way to start a conversation to get to know someone is to go through these 4 steps. These 4 steps, to be honest with you, we've done for years and years. We're going to practice them again tonight. Every night we do this, we'll do a little bit of this. Some nights we'll only take 5 minutes and do it. Other nights it'll take the whole time and do it. Sometimes we'll take 15 or 20 minutes and go through the 4 steps, and then we'll expand into other concepts, other ideas, etc. But this is home base for us. It's very difficult to go wrong when you use the 4 steps, utilize the 4 steps, I'll call it concepts, to engage in conversation with people. Deep, meaningful conversations, getting into people's worlds and helping facilitate growth, discovery, discipleship. You just can't hardly go wrong with this. And honestly, these 4 steps are not only biblically true, but they've been proven scientifically true by the psychological community. So it just doesn't get any better than this. So the first thing we do is we first identify the unhealthy emotion. Now, for purposes of our webinar, it doesn't really even matter what the emotion is. It also doesn't matter really who talks about the emotion or if you're really going through the emotion because we're practicing. What we're doing in this webinar is practicing what it's like to get into somebody else's world and to facilitate their growth, to disciple someone. And this gets down to kind of the brass tacks very quickly when you're working with someone. So the unhealthy emotion is crucial, and here's why it's crucial. Because when we identify the unhealthy emotion, this is how we take our spiritual temperature. It's kind of like a barometer. We know if we're lying, I don't even know how to spell temperature, but you get it. This is how we take our spiritual temperature. So in Galatians 5, and notice on the left-hand side, I really like YouVersion. I can't remember, one of the guys from Greenfield told me about this, and I started messing with it. And to be honest with you, I've now fell in love with it. He told me I would, but of course I didn't believe him at the time. But what we have is, I'm going to go to the New American Standard Version. Here we go. Right here. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The fruit, which means the result of God, and the Holy Spirit is in us, the result is naturally going to be love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Up here, we see the deeds of the flesh are evident. So immorality, impurity, sensuality, adultery, you get it. Strife, jealousy, anger, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So this is how we take our spiritual temperature. If we are experiencing something like strife, which some people have anxiety, worry, strife, depression, they all kind of fit in the same mold. We know this is not coming from God. Jesus is the Prince of Peace, not the Prince of Anxiety. And so we have here the fruit of the Spirit is love, peace, joy, peace. So if we're experiencing peace and joy, we know that's coming from the fruit of the Spirit. If we're experiencing peace, it's not coming from the enemy. The enemy wants nothing to do with us experiencing peace. Okay? So the first thing we do, this is how we take our spiritual temperature. Now, a good question came from someone. I was doing a class about a few days ago or something. And the question was, now wait a second, Derek. You know, even Jesus got angry. Even Jesus had this, where he got frustrated with people. And then she went on to explain some different times, you know, where he threw over the temple. It's not uncommon for us to love to read, especially if we're upset, to love to read the parable or the situation where Jesus threw over all the tables and got upset, because that makes us think that, well, it's good for us to get upset. However, she also mentioned that Jesus was very distraught and Jesus was very sad. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we know what we're really talking about here. Unhealthy emotions. There is absolutely nothing wrong with sadness. Sadness can be a great emotion. Sadness can be a very healthy emotion. Unfortunately, when sadness moves into depression, now we know that that is not a healthy emotion. That's an unhealthy emotion. Anger. That can be a very healthy emotion. The example that I give often with people that I'm talking with is, look, if I look outside and I see a child being molested or being kidnapped or something like that, if I see that happening outside and that doesn't make me angry, then there's something really, really unhealthy about me. So, for instance, if I'm looking outside and I see a child molested, and I sit there and I think, well, my emotion is, well, that's okay. I'm good. You might think feeling okay or feeling peace in that moment is a healthy emotion, but of course it's not. It's a horrible emotion to feel. It's the most unhealthy emotion you can imagine, is to feel apathy in a moment of time like that. So the key here is this. The key is the word unhealthy. And really, only you and I, you can know that about yourself. I can know that about me. Clearly, Ephesians tells us, be angry. It's good to be angry. But he also says, to be angry, don't take your anger overnight. Well, what's he mean by that? Look, obviously it would be great for me to be angry if I see a child being kidnapped. I mean, that ought to move me to action, that anger should. However, if I'm still dwelling on that anger for the next 3 years, the next 2 months, and it's causing me not to sleep, now we know we've gone to somewhere that's unhealthy. And we can take our spiritual temperature and say, wait a second, this anger is not healthy, even as it's referred to in Galatians 20, he talks about anger. Okay. So what we want to do first is we want to, Brent, if you'll help me out with this, all we want to do is we want to write down a few emotions, and it doesn't matter who and it doesn't matter what. We just want to write down a couple unhealthy emotions that we have experienced through sometime in this last week or two to kind of get us off on the right track here.
Yeah,
so
and as we're doing this, you guys, I won't say what your name is. Just put the emotion up. You can type it in, and I'll go ahead and pass that on to Derek.
Yeah, so type that in or raise your hand so you can talk.
So far, I'm not seeing anything. Must be a good week for everybody. There we go. Oh, here they come. Okay, we've got anxiety.
It's an internet delay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have anxiety.
Mm-hmm. We have apathy.
Okay.
Anybody else? Jealousy.
Okay. Yeah, those of you that have ever worked with me before or seen me lead a group, I will sit here for like 10 minutes and say absolutely nothing until somebody says something, so you might as well just get on with it. Okay, 2 more.
Anger.
Cool.
And then I see another one that says anger, anger, anger. That's 3 more.
Okay, is Mishler on the line here? Okay. All right, anger, anger, anger. All right, so the first thing we do is we identify this unhealthy emotion. The second thing we're going to do...
Oh, we've got a couple of people putting their hand up here.
Okay, go ahead.
This is Sheila.
Hey, Sheila. Did you unmute her, Brent?
Well, I'm looking to see. I got it. Just a second here. There we go. She's there now.
Hey, Sheila.
Hi. I'd say worry.
Worry?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And then we've got Mark West as well.
Okay, unmute Mark. Mark, are you there? Mark was having a little trouble with his...
He says I am, but I have no microphone.
Have no microphone. Okay. All right, good. All right, so here we have it. We have plenty of emotions to experience. And so what I'm going to do, last week, if I remember right, we talked about anxiety. And in particular, we talked with Derek about anxiety, a different Derek, not me, about anxiety. So this week what I want to do is I want to go after anger, since apparently we've not only got anger, but we've got lots of anger. So I'm going to pull up a new board. And step number 2 is identify the thought. Now here's the deal, guys. You'll probably have to be unmuted for this, most of you. You might be able to write this down. But what I want to do is I want to be able to write down 3 thoughts that have caused anger in your life in the last day, week, month, year, doesn't matter. And it doesn't even matter if the people that answer this question are the ones that said that they were struggling with anger. It can really be anybody. But here's the thing. The emotion is anger. And I want to know 3 thoughts, 3 different thoughts that would cause you to be angry. Now, again, what we're talking about is here unhealthy anger. So what we don't want is the situation which I told about earlier, you know, some kid getting kidnapped. But we want the any situation, any thought that you have that has caused unhealthy anger. So if somebody would raise their hand and then...
you guys can just raise your hand.
Yeah, raise your hand, we'll unmute you, and we'll go from there.
Okay, Darla's here.
Darla.
My thought was, you're not doing what I want you to do.
Okay, you're going to have... I couldn't get it. Can you speak into the microphone a little more?
Sure. My thought was, you're not doing what I want you to do.
Okay. You're not doing what I want you to do. Okay. Now, this could be towards a spouse. This could be towards a... I can't imagine this ever being towards a child, but possibly, since I have 3, I think I've actually thought this before. So who's next? What?
Nobody yet. Must be a good week.
No, I'll start calling on people here in a second. Can't have a webinar if we're not going to talk.
I see one. Here's one. We have one. It said unjust results. And
Unjust
it was typed
results.
Yeah, unjust
Okay.
results.
All right. I'm
And
going to say unjust results.
okay, Lisa Pay has her hand up.
Lisa, I'm sure, has plenty of anger that she can share.
You're unmuted.
Okay, too much to do, too many expectations.
One says, I have been forgotten by God.
Okay. All right. What we'll do now is we've got some thoughts to work with, and this is how, when you are working with other people and you're talking with other people, this is exactly where you want to get. You want to be able to create an environment where you can open up and talk about the unhealthy emotions that they're experiencing. Secondly, we want to identify the thought that's causing the anger. Because remember what we talked about last week? Our thoughts create our emotions, and our emotions create our actions. Okay? So, the next question is, where we're at this point, most everybody can do without too much trouble. Although I would encourage every single one of you this week. I would love for you to just engage in any conversation with a friend, let them know what you're doing, go through this process of just getting to this point. Most people experience emotions every week that they're struggling with, and they don't even take the time to capture the thought. 2 Corinthians 10:5 tells us to take every thought captive. And so just this exercise of taking the thought captive that's causing the emotion is a very healthy one. Even if you don't go any further than this. This is much further than some people ever get, because they just live on the emotions and they don't even think about what they're thinking about. Okay, so what I want to do now is, let's take the first one. The thing that I want to bring to your attention is anger almost always comes, remember we talked about a little lie and the big lies last week. And the little lie that we talked about as it related to anxiety was predicting the future. It's a very common little lie that we engage in. One of the things I want to teach you is that the number one little lie that we experience when we have anger, and for this, and also judgment, are should statements. Now, I have found these should statements are some of the most difficult lies, distortions for Christians to move through. Okay, so for instance, you're not doing what I want you to do. What this is the word should isn't in here, but you'll notice that this is a hidden should statement. You're not doing what I want you to do is basically another way of saying you should be doing something different. You should be doing different. Okay? Unjust results. The results should be different. Too much expectations, too many expectations by other people of me. People should not expect so much of me. I don't know if that was the interpretation, but you get the point. God has forgotten me. God should remember me. Now, of course, within number 4 are some other issues as well, because this has to presume that God somehow has a bad memory. And so this has another distortion to it besides this. But what I want you to see is it's very common in anger issues that there's going to be should statements. Should. This helps you, as a discipler, quickly move to what the lies are. Because sometimes it's very hard as someone who is discipling someone else to even know what to say. For instance, Darla says, "You're not doing what I want you to do." Well, if she was saying you're not doing what I want you to do, meaning I want my husband to do the dishes, or I want my kids to get good grades, or my husband to do the dishes, you might think, well, you know, that's not a big deal. It's just she's being kind of selfish. But if she's saying, I want my kids to get good grades, you might be thinking, well, you know, it'd be good to have your kids get good grades. So what's wrong with that? And so you can see how sticky this gets. Is immediately when somebody says, you know, I hear all the time, for instance, if I'm marriage counseling, my wife should be and my husband should be. And so here's the question. What do you do with these should statements? How do you move them from these should statements towards discovering what's true? Okay, so that's what we're going to do right now. But what I want you to see is when somebody says anger, be on the lookout for these should statements, because I'm going to teach you how to get out of these should statements and move away from them, because right now these should statements are causing anger. And our goal is to create an environment where truth is discovered. And what's going to happen to the anger? Anger is going to go down. The peace and the compassion is going to go up. Okay? Because truth doesn't lead to anger. Truth leads to peace and compassion. So what I'd like to do now is, since we've gone this far, is I want to give an example of these should statements. This is a guy that I was doing a coaching session with, and we're going to call him Bill. He lives on the East Coast. He has 2 children. Nobody could possibly know this guy. He has 2 children, a wife, and I think his children are like young teenagers, 12 and 10 or 13 and 9 or something like that. And he and his wife are struggling. And we'll call his wife Jan, but I don't actually remember what his wife's name is, to be honest with you. So Bill and Jan are the situation that we're going to discuss. And here was he said frustration and anger, just like we discussed. And then I asked him, well, tell me what your thoughts are. And the thought that he had was, I need remember I told you him and his wife aren't getting along and it's really kind of a difficult situation. So his thought is, I need physical touch from my wife. And his other thought was, my wife should be touching me more, or something like that. Okay, now you see the word should in I need physical touch from my wife doesn't exist. In the second statement that he said, he actually used the word should, but both of these are should statements. Okay, so again, if you're a guy talking to a guy and he says, man, I'm so frustrated and I'm just angry and my wife and I aren't getting along too well, and you're going to hear everything from, I mean, this was a nice way of basically saying we haven't had sex in 6 months or some such thing. And so if you're talking with a guy in a men's group or a discipleship group, or you're talking to a guy just as a friend and he's a Christian, it isn't going to be uncommon for the guy to say, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, we haven't had sex in 3 months. Okay? The challenge for you as the discipler is, what do you say about that? Because the natural tendency is to go a couple of different ways. The natural tendency is to say, oh, that's horrible. Or, I can't believe that. Or worse, does your wife know what the Bible says about? Okay. Or maybe even worse, start giving advice and spewing either judgment to his wife or advice to Bill. And here's the thing. As Christians, unfortunately, we've been brought up in a church society that all we really know is that we go to church and we get advice from a sermon. And so in light of that, then we should be going and giving advice to everybody else. And here's what I'm telling you about discipling. Giving advice to people is the first way to cut off any process of truth discovery. The goal here is not to give Bill advice. The goal here is to not judge the situation. This would be judging the situation. Oh, that's horrible. Oh, I can't believe it is a judgment statement. Oh, doesn't your wife know the Bible? Clearly, advice, analysis, judgment, advice to Bill is advice. Okay? And advice to Bill could be something as crazy as, well, have you brought her flowers in the last couple weeks? Or something like that. All of those things are the exact wrong things to do. They will crush the discipleship process, and they're the exact things that most of us have been inculcated with most of our lives on how to respond to somebody who's running into a frustration or a difficulty. Okay? And I'm going to stop right there. Any comments or thoughts or questions or anything on this, Brent, that you're seeing? Or is there anybody still there? Did everybody log off?
No, we're here. I'm eating popcorn and listening.
All right. Brent's eating popcorn. It's like he's at the movies. Okay, so what we're going to do now is this is the natural tendency for us to do when we're talking with somebody. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a technique that when people are spewing these should statements out, these judgment statements out, and here's the thing, they're going to trip you up because they don't sound that bad. I want my kids should get better grades. My wife should have sex with me once in a while. I mean, my husband should do the dishes once in a while. My husband should listen to me. He never listens to me. My husband is constantly gone. He should be home more. I mean, should. All right, you get the point. What we're going to do now, though, is here's the here's the way to quickly move to the next truth discovery process with the individual. This is exactly what I did with Bill. I try to create a new sheet. All right, remember what we had here. I need physical touch. My wife should be touching me more. So we're going to come over here and we're going to take this. My wife should be touching me more. Now, we'll let you decide what Bill really meant by this, but I think it was a little more than touching. But here's what I asked. Instead of doing any of these things over here, I asked a simple question, and you can always ask this question to anybody that is coming up with these should statements. Ask, okay, can you please give me 3 reasons why she is not touching you? Give me 3 reasons why she's not having sex with you. And so I said to him, I'd like to have 3 reasons why she's not. Now, right off the bat, you can see this is a little counterintuitive. Because the natural tendency is my wife should be touching me more is the thought that's coming at you. And immediately you want to start figuring it out. You want to start analyzing it. You want to start understanding it and then judging it and then advising. What I'm suggesting is get totally out of the way and ask the question. Don't tell them anything. Ask the question. Why do you think she's not touching you? Okay. And he gave some reasons, but what I want to do now is I want to open this back up to you. And I would like for you, I'm going to give you one of the 3 that he gave me, but I'm going to give you that one here. But this answer can come from preferably women, the women on the webinar, but men can answer this too. It's no big deal. But you now know, you've been introduced to Bill and Jan. And I would like you to give me a reasonable reason why Jan right now is feeling uncomfortable in touching her husband. And so I'm just going to sit back and take a drink of water and wait until you respond. We're looking for 2. That's it. 2 reasons why Jan, I know you don't know Jan, but raise your hand and we'll unmute you, and you give me 2 reasons why Jan does not feel like touching or being physically intimate with her husband.
He ran out of Viagra.
Okay. We will put that as number 4.
Just a thought.
Ran out of Viagra. This comes from a sex therapist or teacher. All right, who else? 3 reasons why a woman wouldn't want to have sex with him.
I say lack of trust.
Brent, what was that? Did you hear that?
Sorry, I was muted. There's Darla.
Yeah. Say that again, Darla.
Lack of trust.
Okay. So lack of trust.
Okay. Here's Glenn.
Glenn, go ahead.
She's always tired.
Okay, she's always tired.
Well, you sound like that. You kind of relate to that there.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Okay.
Can't imagine.
Here's Jonathan.
Jonathan, go.
You're on, Jonathan. Okay, he had his hand up. Maybe it was like he was just scratching.
Oh, well, that could be. Or maybe his microphone.
Let's see. Let's see if he's down. Here we go. He doesn't have a microphone. She doesn't respect him.
Okay, she doesn't respect him.
Okay, let's go down to Sheila.
I was
Sheila.
going to say he yells at me all the time.
Okay, he yells at me.
Okay, and here's one more. We got Steve Page.
Steve.
The one I hear all the time is, "You don't know what you're doing."
You don't know what you're doing. Okay. Steve,
Meaning,
you may want to have some.
selfish.
Okay. We'll say insensitive and selfish. However, there is classes on the internet that you can take for that. There might even be a webinar.
Yeah, send me that website, please.
Yeah, I'll take care of that for you. All right, anybody else?
That's all the ones I've got right now.
Okay, very good. We got plenty to work with.
Wait, we got Jennifer. Jennifer, didn't get her unmuted here. There's Jennifer.
I don't know if Jennifer has a microphone. Can you hear us, Jennifer?
Yeah, that's not. Yep, she's not. Jennifer, if you're there and you can type something, go ahead.
Whoa.
I'm not here.
Is that you, Jennifer?
There she is.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Hi, Jennifer.
Yes.
Okay. I had to take my mic off. I was thinking she wasn't emotionally connected to him.
Okay, very good. Not emotionally connected. Very good. Okay.
Kathy's saying she wants equal time.
Okay,
She wants equal time.
Okay. Got it? All right, very good. So what you're starting to see here is you're starting to see there's tons of reasons why Jan may be not wanting to have physical touch with Bill. Now, let me give you Bill's. He said she's afraid of exposing her I better get the sentence finished quick. Emotional life to him. 10. She doesn't believe she's pretty enough. She doesn't believe she's pretty. And the last one he said was it's not important to her. It's not necessary, and it's not important. So these were his three, which you guys did a great job. A lot of these that he wrote down were similar to the ones you wrote down, or that you had me write down. Okay, so we have now 3 reasons why Jan, it's back here, Jan is not comfortable in a physical relationship with Bill, even though they've been married for, I don't know, 15 years. She's afraid of exposing her emotional life to him, which somebody mentioned trust earlier. Okay, so that's certainly a trust issue. She doesn't believe she's pretty, and it's not necessary, which clearly this could be kind of an insecurity issue about her looks. Insecure. Okay, and it's not necessary and not important to her, so it's not high on her priority list. It's not a priority. Now here's the next question. The next question is, and this is key. Remember we had those 3 reasons that you just came up with. And I'm going to summarize them here very quickly. Not a priority, trust, and what was the other one? Insecure. Okay. Now, my question then, because now we have why, or at least some reasons why she wouldn't want to do that. So my question, the question next is, if she did trust you, if she did trust you, if she was secure, and it was a priority, then would she be physically connected with you? And the answer that Bill responded to was, well, yeah, probably. However, right now, this is the place she's in. She's insecure, she's not trusting, and it's not a priority for her. So the distortion that we believe and that we buy into, the lie that we buy into, is that somehow a woman who has, let's say, no trust, is highly insecure, and does not have, we'll say, physical connection as an important priority, somehow we've concocted the idea that if there is no trust, there's insecurity, and there's no priority, that she should be engaging physically with her husband. But now, if I ask it that way, does that really make any sense? Does it make sense for someone who doesn't trust her husband, someone that feels very insecure about herself, and someone that doesn't think this is a priority at all? Does it make sense that she should have sex with him more often, or does it make sense that she should not? And the answer would be what?
Yeah, I think it's obviously you should not. With what she's believing and where she is.
She should not. Now, here's the thing. So what we can say...
People are typing in should nots.
Okay, good. Now, if somebody has a question on this, please interrupt. Somebody, raise your hand and we'll get you in if you have a question or you don't agree or you think I'm totally whacked out or whatever. That's pretty common, so just butt right in. Okay, so here's the thing, though. Based on her level of trust, security, and priorities, Jan should not want to be physical with me. Now, we're talking about Bill, of course. Okay, so here's the question. The question now is, tell me about Bill's anger. And you can just type this in, and then what's going to happen to Bill's anger? If he thinks this, right here, is Bill's anger going to go up or down? What are people saying, Brent?
Yeah, I mean, well, Jonathan said it's going to go up.
Okay, Jonathan.
Lisa Pate says down.
Down, okay. What's going to happen is if Bill says, look, based on her level of trust, security, and priorities, Jan should not want to have physical connection with me, that is going to cause the anger to go down. Because you thinking she should be different than she is what's causing your anger to begin with. You realizing there's plenty of reasons why she is the way she is allows your anger to dissipate. It allows your anger to go down. But as long as you think she should be different than the way she is, it's going to cause your anger to go back up. Now, here's what's very interesting. Paradoxically, if your anger goes down, what do you think might happen to the trust in the relationship? Go up or down?
Everybody's saying it's going to go up.
Okay, it's going to go up. So, here's the deal. These should statements are absolutely nasty things. When I'm saying my wife should do this, my wife should do that, the reality is if I think my wife should be touching me more, the reality is there's a reason why she's not touching me. And those reasons are right here. And based on these reasons, she should not be touching me. That takes your anger down. And by the way, look at what's happening. You are in this moment helping the individual you're talking to see life not from his perspective, but from his wife's perspective. This is the empathy that leads to compassion. This yeah.
We have a question from Sheila.
Sheila, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just answering the last question.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry, I just now saw the hand.
Okay.
Talk to the hand.
All right. So the truth is, based on her level of trust, security, and priorities, Jan should be exactly the way she is. She should not want to be physical with Bill at this point, not based on her own level of trust, insecurity, and priority. Okay? Now, where in the world is this in the Bible? This is a very easy biblical concept. And so what I'll do is I'll go over here, whoops, get my mouse to work again. And here we have this verse. Welcome with open arms, fellow believers who don't see things the way you do, and don't jump all over them every time they do or say something you don't agree with, even when it seems they are strong on opinions but weak in the faith department. Remember, they have their own history to deal with, so treat them gently. By the way, why do you think the trust is down? Why do you think the insecurity is up? Why do you think the priorities are not there? Well, we all know the history that we struggle with, the hurt and pain in our past, has caused us to live and be exactly where we are. And her history, in this particular case, Jan's history, is one that has led her into not being able to trust, being insecure, and not putting this as a priority. The truth is, here's how I like to say it, for Bill, I welcome with open arms Jana, who does not see things the way I do. And I don't jump all over her every time she does or says something I don't agree with, even when it seems she's strong on opinions but weak in the faith department, because she has her own history to deal with. Where she's at right now, she should be doing exactly what she's doing. Again, the paradox is powerful. You're angry. Why? Because you have a should statement. And the should statement says, my wife should be different than she is. Next step, we identify why is she the way she is. And then we realize trust issues. We also realize insecurity issues. And we then can extend compassion for the challenges that she's dealing with. But here's the problem, guys. This step is the step that we miss, and this is the step as disciplers we can help them discover. Here's why we miss this step. Because this step right here is a step that we want to ignore. The reason is because we are so focused on what we want that we can't see what's really going on inside of Jana. And when we focus on what we want, now all of a sudden we can't even see that there's trust issues. We can't even see there's insecure issues. All we can see is that we're mad. And why are we mad? Because we're not getting our way.
It's coming back to that coveting.
Yeah. Of course, the paradox is when the compassion is extended, because we stop believing the lie that she should be different than the way she is, we start believing the truth that based on her history, based on the challenges she has faced, she should be exactly the way she is. That compassion then extends to Jana. That increases trust, as we just suggested. Now, over time, the relationship itself has a much better chance of being connected back together, even physically. Why? Because we're building that trust. We're creating that empathy. We're connecting. We're taking our judgment and throwing it away, because the judgment's going to do nothing but disconnect the trust. The judgment is going to do nothing but increase the insecurity. And the lie we're believing is a simple lie that says she should be different. One final thing, even just from a pure philosophical point of view, this doesn't even make any sense. The enemy loves to trip us up in this. Imagine me tomorrow. It's going to rain tomorrow here in Indiana anyways. And I get up in the morning and I say, I'm going to be mad today because the weather should be different. Well, if you are like me, you have about as much control over the weather as you have over your wife. I don't have any control over anybody else. I cannot make my wife do what I want her to do. You cannot make your spouse do what you want her to do. We can't make the weather do what I want. So can you imagine getting up in the morning and saying, it should not be raining, and actually meaning it? See, there's no logic to it. It philosophically even is a distortion. It makes absolutely no sense. And this is what we do. Unfortunately, as Christians, instead of compassionately getting into the other person's world, it's very easy to extend judgment and say, you should be doing this. Unfortunately, all that does is make your anger go up, make the trust go down, disintegrate the relationship, and then ultimately in many marriages it leads to divorce. And all you do is you walk away from the marriage by saying, she should have been different. Then everything would have been just fine. But ironically, this lie causes, as it goes backwards, significant amount of problems in the relationship. When this lie goes away, it moves to trust. When this lie stays, it's going to absolutely obliterate security and trust in the relationship. Okay, so you can see the paradox of what God's up to here. That's why he says over and over in Scripture, dozens of times, do not judge, do not judge, do not judge. He knows that when we take the judgment and we spew it, first thing it does is it creates craziness in us. We're totally angry. And the second thing it does is it decreases trust. It decreases the security in the relationship, and it starts to disintegrate it. So the first line of defense is should statements. Now, we're going to be able in the future weeks go deeper into these should statements. These are what I call little lies, but they're incredibly important to understand that these should statements really trip us up. Brent, what I want to do now is I want to, we're coming kind of across the 9 o'clock hour. I'm going to try to unmute everybody now, and I'd love to get some feedback on what you're thinking, comments, questions, anything is game. So let me see if I can figure out how to do this quick.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
I can help you as well.
All right, yeah, thank you. Okay, so right now, just about everybody is unmuted. You're going to hear some, we might have a little problems with audio. You might hear some echoes. You might hear some background noise. But I'd love to get some feedback from you as we finish up. Maybe some thoughts that you had, some questions you had, or just your experience with some of these should statements. Who can go first?
I think, can you hear me, Derek?
Yeah, Lisa.
I think this graph at the very end, when anger goes up, trust goes down, relationship goes down, possible divorce, and we walk away thinking they should have been different. What started the anger with should ends the process with should. It's just a no-win, and that graphic is really helpful.
Good. Yeah, thanks. Who else? CJ, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, who is that?
This is Chris Boots.
Hey, Chris. Chris, any
Hi.
thoughts or feedback as we wrap things up tonight?
I think it's interesting, and I have to admit I was with my daughter the first half, so I only got in the second half. But
Sure.
The anger that he's dealing with, I mean, to me is, I mean, her reactions are justified. His reaction is unjustified, and so how does he deal with this increased anger when really he's the reason for the anger?
Yeah. Well, yeah. One of the things that you mentioned is very important, which is the tricky part is that Bill in this situation thinks he's being deceived into thinking that his anger is coming because his wife isn't doing what he's wanting her to do. So Bill thinks that his anger is because of his wife. But it's not. His anger is coming from his thought, and his thought is a distortion that says she should be different than she already is.
Mm-hmm.
And so you make a great point, which is Bill, now here's the thing though. The next thing you ask is, how is he going to find that out? The way he's going to find that out is exactly what we just went through. When you're talking with someone like Bill who's angry, your job as a discipler is to say, tell me about that. Your job is to ask, well, what are you thinking that's causing you to feel angry? And then he's going to give you a should statement. And then you're going to ask him, well, tell me 3 reasons why she's doing that or he's doing that. You're going to write those down. As you walk him through this, he is going to be able to see that he is the one that's causing his own anger. She's not causing the anger. He's causing his own anger by thinking something that's not true. I mean, there isn't anything true about the fact that something that should be different than it already is. Any more than I should get mad because the sun shouldn't shine tomorrow. All right, so that was a great comment.
Exactly.
Derek, I think it's important too, is as both people are getting healthy, he's acting the way he's acting because of his own history as well. And as she begins to understand that and can get into his world and be empathetic and compassionate, then it really has a great chance of being able to salvage that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right, because...
It's very insightful. You know Brent, don't you? Yeah.
Who is that? Is that you, CJ?
Yep.
Do you have anything to add, CJ?
One thing, Derek, that I wanted to, you used to have some really, really helpful tools on your Lives Transforming website, a worksheet or outline to go through these 4 steps. Do you still have that available?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that up here. All right, can you see this on the on the screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, here's the Lives Transforming website. If you click on Downloads and you click on Lives Transforming Worksheets, it's going to take you to this right here. In this Lives Transforming Worksheet, when you click Download, it basically takes you through those 4 steps. And then this is a sample worksheet that's already completed. So if you click Download, see if it happens. Yeah. This is a worksheet that you can go through. Notice at the top, where I'm kind of highlighting in blue, you identify the unhealthy emotion. You go down here, you start identifying the thoughts. Over here, truth discovery, you help move them towards what's true. And then finally at the bottom, you summarize those truth statements, because if we don't think upon those things and really pound them into our head, transformation's not going to occur. So there you have it, CJ. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, great tool.
Okay. Let's see, who else is on? Hey, Jeff Peach, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Anything to add, Jeff?
No, not right now. Thanks.
Okay, great. I'm trying to kind of go after different people here. Matt McConnell, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Matt, thank you so much. I think you were the one that gave me the YouVersion connection, and that is an awesome tool, and I'm using it every time now.
Well, I was actually on a technical side going to say how much I like having the scripture up, while the whiteboard is up. I think that's helpful.
I agree.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
On a discussion kind of feedback, it's always just a good help to be reminded that advice giving isn't the shortcut that it feels like. Because often when you're talking to somebody, it just feels like the shortcut to give them the answer. And
right.
It's just a good constant reminder to realize that it actually takes you backward rather than forward.
Yeah, that's a great comment. And one of the things that I'm going to try to encourage all of you to do every week, and it will make these webinars so engaging, I think, and fun, is get into someone's life, talk with them, ask them these basic questions. Ask them what's going on. Ask them the unhealthy emotions. Ask them some of the things they've been dealing with. Then ask them what their thoughts are. Write down those thoughts. Even as you get stuck and don't know what to say next, bring those back to this webinar. Raise your hand.
Hey.
We'll write those things on the board, and we'll go through them. Go ahead, Brent.
No, I was just going to say Mark Weston wanted to say he really likes this format, the way that what we're talking about right now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark. Does Wade have a microphone, Brent?
I don't know. Wade, do you have a microphone on? You can type an answer to me here. I heard something. Wade, you there, buddy? His internet connection is slow out in the country, so he says no mic.
All right. All right, that's good. Wade, if you need a mic, let me know. I can help you get set up with that. And Jennifer, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Jennifer, this is probably pretty new to you, isn't it?
Yeah, somewhat, although I've seen some of your emails in the past and got the general idea.
Okay. I'd love to have any feedback that you might have from someone that maybe hasn't really been engaged in this as much.
I don't have really anything right now.
Okay.
But I do want to know how to type. I'm new to this and I don't know how to type answers.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Brent, you can help her out maybe on that.
Yeah, you'll just see the little message box, you guys, where it says type message here on the right side of your screen in the panel. And when you type that in, it'll come to me. I'll be able to see it. And then I have a little button that I can either answer privately with you or I can send it to everybody. And sometimes I just kind of wait like I did with Mark's comment. He had sent it, a couple minutes ago. And then I can bring it up at the right time. So.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, good. All right, well, we're getting ready to wrap things up. Let's see if there's anybody.
Hey, Derek.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Glenn.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, just wanted to make one point touch on that became very clear to me through this process is, you can still try to do all the right responses and stop the should statements, and that is still not a guarantee that you're going to get the desired result that you want.
Yeah. That's a very good point, and let me make sure I'm clear on that. Okay, the goal of this process is to create an environment where your health increases, your connection with God increases. The goal of this process is for your anger to go down, that's a deed of the flesh, and your peace and joy to go up as a fruit of the Spirit. The goal of this process is not to try to make someone else get back with you, make someone else do what you want them to do. This is not a manipulative game for someone else. However, I will say the paradoxes of life are such, and the paradox of the gospel is such, that when your anger does go down, your relationships are going to build trust. Whether your wife stays with you or not, or whether you reconcile with your child or not, there is no guarantee to any of that. However, overall, if your anger dissipates, your compassion increases, your connection with God increases, it's highly, you're going to weigh things on your side, the chances are your relationships are going to be healthier. Because what makes a healthy relationship are the healthy individuals. And if you're a healthy individual, the more healthy you get, the more healthy those relationships can get. So, Glenn, you make a great point, and it allows me to be able to summarize, again, what are we doing here? What's the purpose? The purpose is to grow disciples. The purpose is not to make a marriage get back together. In fact, when I do marriage counseling, one of the first things I will tell them is, I don't care if you get back together with your spouse or not if you're separated. Why would I say that? Does I don't care mean I don't care about them? No, I do care about them. It doesn't mean I don't care about marriage at all. What I mean is that is irrelevant compared to what's really important. And what's really important is that the health of the individuals, the growth of the individuals continue to grow. The individuals continue to grow. The ultimate results that come out of that, many times we have no control over. And so that's not the goal. Sometimes that happens, sometimes that doesn't, but we can all move towards healthiness. So, Glenn, I really appreciate that. Okay, anybody else?
Cosette said she really likes the Monday night because it's not having to do the drive. Good timing for the gas problem we're having.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Those of you that were involved in a group that I was in over at Fisher's, especially if you live out of state, it's saving you a lot of money on gas.
CJ comes in, he says, thank you, great truths.
Okay. All right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Brent, will you pray for us, and then we'll take off, and then we'll from there.
Jesus, thank you so much for truth. It really is a sword that cuts through all the warped philosophies that we are taught, even by well-meaning people sometimes that don't even see how trust can be destroyed by having an agenda and trying to fix people. Lord, the only one we can work on is ourselves, and the only way we can do that is when we really do submit ourselves to you and to your word. Teach us how to work on ourselves. and to love from the inside who we really are without needing anything from anybody else, so that it can be clean and really transformative to us and to anyone else who maybe even comes in contact with that kind of love, that it really is extravagant. And I just thank you for everybody who is here. Help us to know what to say when we're put in those positions this week with people as they come our way, to know how to just ask questions, to get into their world with no agenda, and allow the Holy Spirit to do its work. And thank you, God, for this time. And just continue to keep growing this as we leave here every single day. Put it into practice. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Brent. And for all of you, as things come up this week, don't hesitate to email me. As you think about what we discussed tonight, if you have questions or comments, please email me. And certainly, as you're talking with people and you're getting into their worlds and you get stuck, or you just have a story you want to tell or something you want to kind of process through, email me. I'd love to be able to share those things with you, and also in the webinar if it's appropriate to do it in the webinar.